U.S. Farm Report at the Executive Women in Agriculture Conference is brought to you by America's Farmers Mom of the Year contest. Visit americasfarmers.com for more information.
Our marketing roundtable hit the road this week. On Thursday, we took our cameras to the Executive Women in Agriculture Conference held in Chicago. Tyne Morgan led the discussion.
Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. Have a different look this week. We're actually at the Executive Women in Agriculture Conference here in Chicago, Illinois. And we want to introduce some very special guests with us this week for our marketing roundtable. First, we have Julianne Johnston with Pro Farmer. Next, we have Naomi Bloom with Stuart Peterson. And we also have Sue Martin with Ag and Investment Services. So a great group of ladies here with us today. Let's jump right into things. Julianne, we've seen some major price volatility, but we've recently slipped off those highs. What's the reason for that?
Well, corn and soybeans moved to new all highs late in the summer as the market factored in that bullish supply situation. And as we got reports of better than expected soybean yields, prices began to slide. And then as we started to anticipate record South American soybean production, the losses in soybeans started to outpace those of corn. And we've seen quite a decline in the price of soybean prices. Now, this could possibly be the first time ever that Brazil outpaces the U.S. in soybean production. That will take some of the pressure, if this happens, off the U.S. to supply the world and to supply China with soybeans. But at the same time, we have a very tight situation, and still soybean exports are running well ahead of what's needed to meet USDA's export projection. At the same time, corn demand has been softened, but the cash markets are very strong. Basis levels signal that we have a very tight supply situation, and while technically the markets haven't confirmed that lows are posted, the cash markets should suggest that downside risk is limited.
You spoke about corn. I've heard experts project 98 million acres of corn. Are we going to see that this year? Is that possible? The drought is looming on everyone's minds.
I would say that the producers I talked to, many of them in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, are saying that they want to stick to more of their normal rotation and don't want to switch things up too much because corn on corn wasn't quite the best for them. And so they want to go back to normal rotation. Now, I will add that the cotton acres, we could really potentially lose up to 2 million acres of cotton, which could go towards corn or towards soybeans. And then the producers in the Dakotas had decent luck with corn, and so we're going to see them maybe plant more corn rather than the wheat. So I don't think we're going to see huge shifts from what we have last year, just a little bit of a balance situation and change.
Sue, do you agree with that?
I do. I do think that crop insurance is going to play a hand, though, in that decision. And also, when you come to soybeans, I think they're basically feeling that that's going to ride on the heels of wheat. So, that might be where we catch a lot of those bean acres. But the corn, I would have to tend to agree. I think that, the cash rents are going up, getting more aggressive, and farmers it's amazing how much money they have on the table every spring when they're planting, and they need the most they can garner out of that acre, and so corn may end up being the one that does the best.
We don't have a lot of soybean carryover. There's no question that it is tight. What type of impact will that have?
Well, I think that because the soybean carryover is so tight, and the one thing that's been, I think, underestimated was the crush and the huge demand for soybean oil. We're running about 105.7% of the year's projection by the USDA for soybean oil usage. Even soybean meal, the demand is huge for that as well. And I think one thing that we're seeing in the soybean complex with that oil demand is everybody thinks there's so much of it going to unknown destinations. And it's been talked about a lot of times. We think it's China, and I kind of think a chunk of it is. But whoever is buying that soybean oil, they don't want us to know who they are until they switch the destination or put it into an actual buy order, and then it'll be announced. But bottom line, I think that that soybean oil could also be going to India. If that is true, yes, they have a growing middle-class population, the largest in the world, but more than anything, their monsoonal rains were really late this year, and they were a little bit on the weak side. We may have overlooked a giant. It may be that India is kind of like the sleeping giant right behind China, and India does export a lot of meal into Southeast Asia and China, so that could be a big factor.
How high could we see these soybean prices go?
Depending on weather in South America, of course. If weather there starts to get a little iffy, then I think we'll see the bean price in winter get back up to the $15, $16 area, maybe a little bit higher. But for us to see new highs, it would take disaster in South America and then bad planting here.
Julianne, you agree?
I definitely agree with that. We would have to have a more bullish situation than we currently have
Okay.
to get prices back to those levels.
All right, we have a lot more to talk about, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on U.S. Farm Report in just a moment.